You ever sit across from a woman and something feels off? She's not cold, she's not flirty either. She's somewhere in between, guarded, careful, like she's measuring every word. And you're left wondering, is she even into this? Or just being polite? Here's the truth no one talks about. Some of the women most attracted to you are also the most afraid you'll reject them. They're not obvious. They're not easy to read, because they don't want to risk being wrong about you. See, when a woman really likes you, when she sees something different in you, it's not always excitement she feels. Sometimes it's pressure, sometimes it's fear, and that fear, it makes her pull back. Not because she's not interested, but because she's terrified you might not be. That's why most guys never see it coming. They miss the signs, misread the signals, walk away thinking it wasn't mutual. When in reality, she went home thinking about every second of that conversation. This video is going to change that, because today we're not just talking about attraction, we're breaking down 10 subtle secret signs she's deeply into you, but trying to hide it. Some signs are in her words, some are in her silence, some are buried in body language so quiet most men would never catch them. But after this, you will. And if you're the kind of man who values insight over impulse, who wants to understand not just what women do, but why they do it, you're exactly who this video was made for. Hit subscribe, because here we don't do surface level. We decode behavior, emotion, and energy through the lens of Stoic masculinity. So if you're ready to see through the noise and actually understand what she's feeling even when she's scared to show it, let's begin. Sign number 1, she hesitates before initiating conversations. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed a woman, maybe at the gym, maybe in your social circle, who always seems like she wants to say something to you, but never quite does? She walks by and glances. She lingers when you're near. She smiles, almost starts a sentence, then looks away, checks her phone, or suddenly pretends to be busy. It's like she's constantly caught between "I want to talk to him" and "what if he doesn't care?" That hesitation is not random. It's one of the clearest signs she's attracted to you but unsure how safe it is to show it. See, a woman who's lukewarm about you doesn't hesitate. She either says something casually or doesn't notice you at all. But a woman who's deeply attracted, who actually respects you on some level, she pauses. Because attraction for her comes with risk. She's wondering if you'll ignore her, if you'll think she's being too forward, if you'll misread her intention, or worse, not care at all. You might think she's shy, you might think she's cold, but what she really is uncertain. And in that uncertainty, she becomes overly cautious. So instead of walking up and saying, "Hi," she waits for a signal from you. A look, a smile, a comment. Something that tells her, "I see you too." Here's where most men go wrong. They see her hesitation and assume she's disinterested, so they pull back, say nothing, move on. But a Stoic man doesn't jump to conclusions. He observes. He notices her energy, her patterns. He recognizes that silence isn't always rejection, it's sometimes self-protection. Let me give you a real-world example. You're at a coffee shop. She's in line behind you. You catch each other's eyes briefly, maybe twice. She doesn't speak up, but she doesn't move away either. She stands closer than she needs to. She touches her necklace, adjusts her bag, glances again. That's her waiting for you to open the door, not physically, emotionally. Now, I'm not saying every woman who hesitates is into you, but I am saying this. If she's visibly nervous around you, if she seems like she's holding herself back, if she acts differently with you than with others, that's not just anxiety. That's attraction, mixed with fear of rejection. And it takes a grounded, present, emotionally intelligent man to notice that without reacting, you don't chase, you don't force, You don't try to break through the wall with big energy. You offer calm presence. You let her see that you're safe to talk to because your energy doesn't demand anything from her. Maybe you make a small comment about something neutral. This place is packed today. Nothing loaded. Nothing flirty. Just opening a space. And when she sees that she can speak without being judged, tested, or pushed, she'll step into that space. Because that's what attraction needs. Not just chemistry, safety. That's why her hesitation says more than you think. It means she's considering the cost of approaching you. And if she's doing that, you're already different in her eyes. If you've ever seen a woman pause like she wanted to say something but didn't type in the comments, I've seen this. I get it now. Because from now on, that hesitation isn't invisible to you anymore. You'll feel it. You'll recognize it. And you won't confuse silence with disinterest ever again. And don't go anywhere, because the next sign is even more subtle. What happens when she does speak but her words aren't about connection, they're about control? Let's talk about that. Sign number 2. She avoids direct eye contact but steals glances. You're sitting across the room. She knows you're there. You know she knows. But every time your eyes try to meet hers, she looks away. Fast. Almost too fast. Like eye contact would expose something she's not ready to admit. But here's the twist. Just when you think she's disengaged, you catch her looking. Not once, not twice. Repeatedly, from the corner of her eye. Quick glances, silent check-ins, that's not random. That's attraction in disguise, and it usually happens when she doesn't feel safe enough to show interest openly. See, direct eye contact is intimate, vulnerable. When a woman feels neutral toward you, she can look straight at you no problem, because there's nothing at stake. But when she feels something, curiosity, attraction, or even tension, looking directly at you feels risky. Because it's not just eye contact anymore, it's exposure. And women, especially those who've been hurt, judged, or misunderstood in the past, will often protect that spark of interest like it's sacred. They don't want you to know it's there, but they can't help wanting to look. So instead of holding eye contact, they steal it. Now here's where it gets interesting. In Stoicism, there's a concept called oikiosis, the natural pull toward connection and harmony with others. It's subtle, it's unspoken, but it moves us toward what feels emotionally right. When a woman keeps stealing glances, that's oikiosis in action. Her rational mind says, look away, stay guarded. But her emotional body says, look back, just one more time. And if you're tuned in, you'll notice the difference between a polite glance and a loaded one. Polite glances are casual, uninvested, but stolen glances, they're layered, timed. They often come right after you say something meaningful, or when you're not looking and she thinks it's safe. Here's a real moment that says it all. You're at a gathering. She's across the room talking to someone else. You're mid-conversation, not even trying to engage her. Then for no reason you turn and boom, she looks away in a flash. Your gut tells you she was watching. That's not coincidence. That's interest, covered in fear. And this is exactly where the Stoic man separates himself from the average guy. He doesn't try to force eye contact. He doesn't chase the glance. He doesn't turn it into a game. He simply notices. He registers the signal, and he stays centered. Because he understands that some of the most powerful communication is non-verbal, and some of the most honest emotions are the ones we try hardest to hide. Let's go deeper. There's a moment in every potential connection where the woman doesn't know what you'll do if she reveals herself. Will you mock it? Will you take advantage of it? Will you need validation? Or will you handle it with presence? Your calm, grounded energy when she steals that glance tells her more than 100 pickup lines ever could. It tells her, you can look, I'm not chasing you. I'm not judging you. I'm just here. That kind of energy is rare, and women notice it. So the next time you feel like she's avoiding your eyes but you catch her checking you out when she thinks you're not looking, don't second guess it, don't overthink it. Just know she sees you, and she's hoping you won't make it harder for her to keep watching. If you've ever caught a woman looking at you like that only to turn away the second your eyes locked, drop a comment. I've seen this. She didn't know I noticed. Because now you'll see it for what it really is. Not shyness, not rejection. Just quiet curiosity mixed with caution. And in the next sign you'll see how that caution sometimes turns into another behavior, one you might mistake for disinterest, but actually reveals something deeper. Stick around. Let's keep going. Sign number 3. She fidgets with nervous energy around you. Let me paint you a picture. You're having a casual chat with a woman, maybe it's a co-worker, a classmate, someone in your social circle. She's smiling. She's engaged. But then you notice she keeps adjusting her hair, tugs at her sleeves, fiddles with her necklace, shifts her weight from one foot to the other. She's not bored. She's not impatient. She's just nervous, but not in a bad way. What you're seeing is nervous energy that stems from attraction. The kind that says, I like you and I have no idea what to do with that. You see, when a woman truly doesn't care, she's calm, composed, and maybe even a little cold. But when she's into you, her body betrays her. Even when her words are smooth, her hands are restless. Because she's trying to manage how she comes across, and that effort leaks out as fidgeting. It's subtle. But if you're paying attention, it's one of the clearest tells in the game. Now here's the thing, this is not the same kind of fidgeting you see when someone's bored in a meeting. This is personal, emotional, embodied. She's not nervous about the world. She's nervous about you, nervous about how you perceive her, nervous about whether she's saying too much or too little. Nervous because consciously or not, your presence carries weight. And that's not arrogance. That's energetic awareness. From a Stoic lens, you understand this. We can't control how others feel, but we can carry ourselves in a way that creates pressure just by being present, calm, and unshaken. When you bring stillness into a space, others start to move around it, especially if they're interested in you. Let's go deeper. There's an ancient idea in Stoicism that speaks volumes here, apatheia, not to be confused with apathy, but rather a deep state of inner composure. When a man lives in apatheia, his stillness contrasts with the world's noise. And for a woman who's attracted to that kind of energy, it can be both magnetic and intimidating. So what does she do? She fidgets. Not to distract herself, but to self-regulate. She's trying to make sure she looks right, acts right, says the right things. And every time she touches her hair or adjusts her posture or nervously taps her fingers, she's unconsciously saying, I want to leave a good impression. One guy told me this story. He met a woman at a quiet lounge. She was polished, confident, the type who probably gets approached a lot. But during their conversation, she kept pulling at the sleeves of her sweater. Not once or twice, constantly. Later she admitted, I felt like you were seeing through me, like I couldn't just relax. That was his cue. He wasn't being intense. He was just present. And his presence activated her attraction and her insecurity at the same time. So here's what you do when you see this. You don't call it out. You don't tease her for being nervous. You don't exploit the energy. You anchor it. You stay composed. You don't mirror her fidgeting. You don't change your vibe to match hers. You just hold space. That's the power of a Stoic man. He doesn't chase validation. He creates safety. And when she senses that safety, the fidgeting will soften. Not because you fixed anything, but because you didn't flinch. So if you've ever talked to a woman who couldn't stop touching her face, her jewelry, her clothes, even though she seemed into the conversation, type in the comments, "I've seen this. I didn't realize what it meant." Because now you do. Her nervous energy doesn't mean you're making her uncomfortable. It means she's battling her own excitement and trying to keep it cool. And speaking of keeping it cool, what happens when she goes out of her way to avoid awkward silence by filling space with chatter jokes or random stories? Sometimes attraction doesn't look like nervous silence, it looks like playful overcompensation. Let's get into that next. Sign number 4. She asks indirect questions about your relationships. Let's be real for a second. A woman who's into you deeply, into you, won't always come out and say, "Hey, are you single?" That's too forward, too exposed, too risky. Instead, she gets strategic. She wraps the question in layers. She makes it casual. But if you're paying attention, the meaning is loud and clear. She'll ask things like, "So, do you usually hang out alone on weekends? Your apartment looks clean. Does someone help you keep it that way?" Or even, "Wow, you seem like someone who wouldn't stay single long." She's not just making conversation, she's trying to find the edges of your availability without putting herself on the line, because asking directly would make her vulnerable. If you said, "I'm seeing someone," she risks embarrassment. If you said, "Why do you ask?" she'd have to admit more than she's ready to. So instead, she gets subtle. And the reason that's a big deal is because women only care about your relationship status when they're imagining a possibility with you. Think about it. If she doesn't care, she doesn't ask. She doesn't think twice about who you're dating, who you live with, or what your weekends look like. It's all irrelevant. But when she starts getting curious, when she slips questions into the conversation that seem off-topic, that's her way of protecting her interest while feeding her curiosity. And what's really interesting is that these questions often come with plausible deniability. If you catch on and say, "Are you asking if I'm single?" she can easily laugh it off. "What? No, I was just making conversation." And that's the point. She wants the answer without revealing the motive. Now, from a Stoic perspective, this is a moment where your discernment matters more than your desire, because it's tempting to take that as a green light and make a bold move. But restraint is power. The Stoic man doesn't jump the gun. He listens. He reads between the lines. He allows her to approach the threshold of vulnerability, but doesn't shove her through it. Instead of answering with too much enthusiasm or playing coy, he responds with presence. She says, "So you live alone?" You say, "Yeah, I like the peace. Keeps my head clear." You're not dodging. You're not flexing. You're just offering a window into your life without using it as bait. And here's the twist most men miss. She's not just looking for a yes or no answer. She's watching how you talk about your life. Do you speak with confidence? Do you seem bitter about the past? Do you make her feel like you're emotionally available or still stuck somewhere else? Because attraction isn't just about whether you're single. It's about whether you're ready. And these indirect questions, they're her subtle probe for emotional availability. Let me give you a quick story. A guy told me once about a coworker who always asked about his weekends. "Do you go out much? You always post hiking photos. Do you ever take anyone with you?" At first he thought she was just nosy. Then one day she said, "Your type probably gets snatched up fast." That was it. No follow-up, no eye contact. But in that moment he realized she wasn't asking for information. She was offering invitation without putting herself out there. If you've had a woman toss a random question your way that felt a little too personal for the context, go down to the comments and type, "I've felt that. I get what she was doing now," because you're not going to miss that cue again. And next time you'll respond not by overreacting, but by anchoring the moment with presence and calm. And speaking of calm, what happens when her interest isn't just in your answers, but in how you stay composed under pressure? When her attention shifts from what you say to how you carry yourself, the dynamic changes entirely. Let's talk about what happens when your control becomes the attraction itself. Stay close. Sign number 5. She listens intently to your conversations. Here's something you need to know. In a world full of distractions, deep attention is a rare currency. And when a woman gives it to you freely without asking for anything in return, it's not random. It's attraction. Not just physical. Not just surface-level curiosity, but something deeper. When she's genuinely drawn to who you are, you'll notice it in her ears more than her eyes. She'll lock in on what you say. She'll nod at the right moments, not out of politeness, but because she's actually following. She'll remember things you forgot. You mentioned your dog's name, your favorite book, that offhand story about your brother, and she won't interrupt to change the subject to herself. She'll sit with your words. Why? Because when a woman is interested, especially emotionally, your voice becomes a signal she wants to tune into. It's not about the facts. It's about your energy, your worldview, the way you think, and maybe the way you make her feel safe just by talking. Now here's what makes this so important. Most men think attraction is loud, big laughs, overt flirtation. But the truth is, many women express the most intense attraction with quiet presence. Stoicism teaches us that calm is powerful, and a stoic man doesn't need to dominate a room. He speaks with precision. He observes. He drops thoughts that are worth listening to, not for ego, but from depth. And when a woman listens closely to that kind of man, it's not a performance, it's connection. Here's a quick example. You're sitting at a group dinner. The conversation is flying. She's laughing at someone's joke, chatting with her friend. But the moment you start speaking, she shifts. She leans in slightly. Her eyes lock on you, not intensely but fully engaged. She stops checking her phone. And even after you're done talking, she references what you said 10 minutes later. That's attention. That's investment. And that's a woman saying without words, "You matter to me." But here's what separates the Stoic man from everyone else. He doesn't get high off that validation. He notices it but stays grounded. He doesn't speak more just to keep her attention. He stays rooted in clarity over performance. Because when you know your value, you don't chase attention. You offer insight and let the right people lean in. Let me take it further. There's a Stoic principle called logos, the belief that logic, reason, and aligned communication shape the universe. When you speak from that place, your words carry weight. They're not just noise, they're structure. And when a woman senses that in you, especially if she's tired of surface-level guys, your words land differently. They don't just entertain, they stay with her. So how do you know when she's listening for real? It's not just the eye contact, it's the subtle responses, the follow-up questions, the way she circles back to something you said 3 days ago and adds a thought to it, the way she remembers your values, not just your stories. That's how you know you're not just a man she's talking to. You're a man she's watching quietly, curiously, attentively. And here's the twist. The more she listens, the less she talks. Not because she's shy, but because she's giving you the floor. She wants to know what you'll reveal next if you're someone worth hearing more from. So if you've ever had a woman sit across from you and just listen, without trying to impress, without trying to interrupt, just listening like it mattered, drop a comment. "I've felt this. She didn't look away once." Because from now on you'll recognize that kind of presence. And in the next sign we're flipping the script. Because sometimes listening isn't enough. Sometimes her attraction pushes her to do something even riskier. She gives you the spotlight but does it while hiding her true motive. And trust me, that signal is harder to decode. Let's get into it next. Sign number 6. She remembers tiny details about your past. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever been talking to a woman and out of nowhere she brings up something you barely remember saying? Maybe you told her once, just once, that you used to ride your bike to school every day. Weeks later, she casually asks, "Do you still ride like you did back when you were biking to school?" And it hits you. She was really listening, not just in the moment, but on a level that's personal, intimate, focused. That, my friend, is not normal behavior from someone who sees you as just another guy. That's attraction in its most quiet, calculated form. See, when a woman remembers small, seemingly insignificant details from your past, she's doing more than impressing you. She's building a profile. She's tracking your emotional blueprint. And she doesn't do that unless she sees value in who you are. Most people forget 90% of what you tell them in casual conversation. But the moment emotions are involved, the memory sharpens, the attention sticks. Now here's what separates a woman who's just being friendly from one who's emotionally invested. She connects your past to your present. She doesn't just say, "You mentioned you used to work in finance." She says, "I feel like your calmness probably came from that finance pressure you were under." Boom. That's not memory. That's interest. She's not just collecting facts. She's processing who you are. From a Stoic lens, this is powerful. Stoics talk about prohairesis, your inner faculty of judgment, the part of you that chooses how to respond, how to assign value, and how to filter meaning. When a woman is truly attracted to you, she doesn't just admire your surface. She values the deeper part of you, your decisions, your experiences, your resilience. And the small details from your past, they're clues to that inner strength. So when she brings them up softly out of nowhere, it's her subtle way of saying, "I see more in you than just the moment we're in." Let's flip the perspective for a second. When you're drawn to someone, you do the same thing. You remember how they laughed at something dumb. You recall what music they liked, what book they half finished, that one scar on their wrist and the story behind it. Attraction isn't always loud. Sometimes it's archival. It's mental sticky notes that say, "This person matters, don't forget this." So when a woman brings up a tiny detail you dropped in passing, pay attention. She's not doing it to win points. She's doing it because in her head you're already living rent-free, and that's a much bigger sign than a compliment or a flirtatious smile. Let me give you a real example. A man I know once told a co-worker, totally offhand, that he hated November because his dog had passed away that month a few years ago. 2 months later, he's talking about a tough week he's having, and she says, "Is it because November's coming?" He was stunned. He didn't even remember sharing that. That moment changed everything. He realized she wasn't just being polite. She was tracking his world quietly, respectfully, with care. And that's what a woman does when she's afraid to make her attraction obvious, but can't help investing in you anyway. If that's ever happened to you, if a woman ever shocked you by remembering a tiny random thing you said, go down and comment, "She remembered what I forgot," because now you'll never ignore that signal again. It's not about memory. It's about meaning. And speaking of meaning, what happens when a woman starts changing how she shows up physically around you? Adjusting her tone, her movements, even her posture. Yeah, the body doesn't lie. Let's talk about that next. Sign number 7, she subtly mirrors your body language. This one flies under the radar for most men. You're deep in conversation. Not necessarily flirting, just talking maybe about something random like weekend plans or a movie you just saw. You lean slightly to your right. She does the same just seconds later. You cross your arms, not closed off, just comfortable. She adjusts hers too. Now, here's the key. She's not copying you like a child mimicking an adult. It's subtle, delayed, almost unnoticeable. But it's mirroring, and it says more than words ever could. Why? Because when someone unconsciously mirrors your body language, it means they're attuned to you. Their subconscious is trying to build connection, safety synchronization. It's called limbic resonance. It's the nervous system's way of saying, we're in sync. And in the context of attraction, especially when that attraction is hidden, conflicted, or unspoken, this becomes one of the most honest signals there is. Think about it. When a woman's guarded, she controls her words. She manages her tone. She keeps her expressions neutral. But the body, it doesn't lie. It can't. She's not thinking, let me copy how he's sitting. She's just feeling the pull to match your rhythm, your pace, your position. That's not coincidence. That's connection. From a Stoic perspective, this is beautiful. Because the Stoic man isn't loud. He's not flashy. He doesn't need to dominate the room with volume. He commands presence. And when a woman senses that grounded, calm presence, her nervous system adjusts to meet it, sometimes even before her mind realizes what she's doing. You stand tall. She finds herself straightening up. You relax your shoulders. She exhales. It's not flirtation, it's resonance. But here's the twist most guys miss. Mirroring isn't always attraction. Sometimes people mirror out of politeness, empathy, or comfort. So how do you tell the difference? Two things. One, consistency. If you notice she mirrors you multiple times during a single interaction, especially when the energy between you is a little tense or charged, pay attention. Two, timing. If she starts mirroring after you've shared something personal, if she adjusts her posture when you shift during a quiet moment, that's emotional echo. And that echo, that's the sound of interest. Let me give you a story. One guy I worked with told me about a woman he had a long friendship with. They talked often, nothing romantic, at least on the surface. But he started noticing something strange. When they sat in meetings together, if he leaned forward with his hands clasped, she would too. If he leaned back and crossed his legs within 30 seconds, she followed. He tested it over time, different positions, different settings. And almost every time she reflected him, without knowing it. Eventually she admitted she'd had feelings for him for over a year, but didn't want to risk the friendship. So her body said what her mouth couldn't. That's the lesson here. When a woman is attracted but afraid of rejection, afraid of looking obvious, afraid you're not on the same page, her instincts take over. Her words stay safe, but her body reaches out. That's mirroring. So if you've ever been mid-conversation with a woman and realized, wait a minute, she's sitting just like me, go to the comments and type, I didn't notice it before, but she matched me, because next time, you won't miss it. And here's something powerful you can do when it happens. Don't call it out. Don't shift to test her. Just own your space. Keep your posture strong. Keep your movement intentional. Keep your calm. Because if her body is mirroring you, that means she's already following your lead. And in the next sign, we'll look at what happens when that attraction builds past silence and posture and starts slipping into her compliments. Not just any compliments, but the kind that are specific, emotional, and hard for her to say out loud. Let's get into that next. Sign number 8. She laughs nervously or awkwardly around you. You ever say something that wasn't even funny, and she laughs anyway? Not a loud, full belly laugh, more like a quick, awkward giggle. Almost like her body reacted before her brain could catch up. Here's what most guys get wrong. They think this means she's uncomfortable or just being polite. or doesn't know how to respond. But the truth, that laugh might be one of the clearest signs she's attracted to you and trying to hide it. Let's break it down. When a woman feels relaxed, she'll laugh because something's genuinely amusing. But when she feels drawn to you, and that attraction makes her self-conscious, the laugh becomes something else. It becomes a release of tension, see attraction, especially the kind she doesn't know how to express builds pressure. And one of the ways the body tries to release that pressure is through laughter, even when nothing's funny. It's the same reason people laugh at funerals, or during arguments, or right before confessing something serious. The nervous system is searching for relief, for balance. So when you're around a woman who's genuinely into you, but unsure if she should be, don't just listen to her words. Watch her reactions. Does she giggle after you say something basic? Does she laugh and then immediately look away? Does she cover her mouth as if surprised she laughed in the first place? That's not her being awkward. That's her attraction leaking out sideways. From a Stoic point of view, this is a test of perception. The Stoic man doesn't chase obvious signs. He notices the subtle ones and knows how to stay grounded when they show up. He doesn't say, "Why are you laughing?" in a teasing tone. He doesn't try to force more laughs by becoming a clown. He stays calm, still, composed. And because of that, her nervous energy either dissolves or draws her even closer. Here's what's really going on. She's in a moment where your presence makes her feel something. Not fear, not discomfort, but pressure. The pressure to present herself well, say the right thing, keep things under control. And laughter for her is a valve. Sometimes it sounds like a giggle she tries to suppress. Sometimes it sounds like a short burst that ends too quickly. Sometimes she even laughs at her own awkwardness and apologizes for it. I don't know why I'm laughing. Exactly, because attraction isn't logical. Let me give you a quick story. A guy I know told me he was hanging out with a woman at a bookstore. They were talking about books neither of them read. Totally normal stuff. She suddenly laughed hard at something he said about a boring author. He paused, looked confused, and asked what was so funny. She went quiet, blushed, and said, "I honestly don't know. You make me nervous." Boom. That moment told him more than any compliment ever could. So next time a woman laughs in that weird, unexplainable way, pay attention. It's not about the joke. It's about you. Your energy is making her feel something she can't process fully in the moment. And the laughter is her body's way of saying, "This is a lot, and I kinda like it." If you've ever had that experience where a woman laughed too hard at something you barely meant to be funny, go comment. "She laughed and I knew it wasn't about the joke." Because now you understand what that moment really meant. And here's what's wild. That nervous laugh, it's often followed by one of two things. She either shuts down the energy, changes the subject, pulls away, or she leans into the vibe and starts sharing something more personal to bridge the gap between how she feels and what she thinks she's allowed to express. And when she starts opening up, revealing pieces of herself carefully, selectively, you're no longer in small talk territory. You're in emotional depth. And that's where we're heading next. Sign number 9, she looks for ways to be around you without saying it out loud. Let's be honest, if a woman really wants to spend time with you, she'll make it happen, even if she never says, "I want to be around you." Because for women, especially those afraid of rejection, proximity is the softest form of pursuit. You won't hear, "Can we hang out?" Instead, you'll hear, "Oh, hey, I didn't know you came here. I was just passing by and saw you." Or, "Wait, you're going to that event too." It's not coincidence. It's strategy cloaked in casualness. Her presence is the message. When a woman keeps accidentally showing up where you are, when she lingers after a group conversation, even when everyone else has left, When she finds random reasons to walk by your desk or DM you a meme, she's not just being friendly. She's testing the waters without risking the fall. From a Stoic perspective, this is where perception without ego becomes critical. The grounded man doesn't assume every interaction is about him, but he also doesn't stay blind to recurring patterns. He notices, he watches, he lets her move at her pace without overreacting or playing dumb. The key here isn't to call her out, it's to let her feel safe being closer to you without demanding clarity too soon. Remember, she's navigating both attraction and fear makes people indirect. She wants to be in your space because something about your presence feels different, calm, stable, unbothered. That's Stoic energy. And it attracts the kind of attention that isn't loud but consistent. So if you've had a woman coincidentally be where you are more than once, drop this in the comments. She kept showing up like it was nothing, because from now on you'll recognize that as a clear signal. And up next, we're not just talking about presence, we're talking about the moment when everything spills out, when her fear of rejection finally loses the battle to her desire. Let's finish strong. Sign number 10, she finally says something honest, but tries to laugh it off. There's a moment. If you've been around women who hide their attraction, you know this moment well. It starts casual, maybe a joke, a throwaway line. Then without warning, she says something that cuts a little deeper. You're the kind of guy I probably shouldn't like. Then she laughs, immediately, quickly, like she wants to snatch the words back before they hit you too hard. This is the confession hidden inside a comedy sketch, and it's almost always real. See, when a woman feels something strong but isn't sure if it's mutual, she tests the space with a half-truth disguised as a joke. Because humor makes it safe.